And welcome back, guys, to another episode of Katawa Shoujo. In the last part, we met Rin again. Not a lot as different has sort of transpired, but maybe as we go further into this, we're gonna see a lot more deviation. So let's just continue. She shakes her head. She just shakes her head, takes the materials from me, and takes off with Misha in tow. Rin frowns thoughtfully as she looks after the retreating student council duo. How rude. It's true, though. I must finish my project before the weekend. There'll be dire consequences if I don't. The end of the world as we know it. Like weekends usually are, but more dire. Much more dire. Maybe I'll postpone my nap to an unforeseen future. I'm about to ask what project she has and what these apocalyptic consequences, but she walks back into the art classroom. Since you have nothing to do, would you give me a hand? This paint can't and doesn't fit into my bag, but I need it. She kicks lightly at a huge can of paint that's lying on the floor next to the table she was sitting and sleeping on. It lets out a dull clang. Being the gentleman I am, I naturally pick it up. Heavy. Yeah, sure. Where do you need to take it? Away. And with that, she takes off to the hallway. Me and the paint can following since there's little choice for either of us. The hallway is quiet and empty now. Shizune and Misha are gone, so we leave towards the stairwell at the other end. Every 10 or 15 or 20 steps, I have to change the can from one hand to another because the thin handle cuts into my palm. At least it keeps my arm from tiring too fast. Rin strolls on beside me with an uneven pace that I have trouble matching, or maybe I'm walking weird because of the extra weight. It seems one of us is constantly walking too slow or too fast, and I can't figure out which. 2 flights of stairs below, trouble appears in form of the head nurse and his fox-like grin.
Ah, Nakai! What a happy coincidence! Tatsuka too, of course.
He nods courteously to Rin, who does not acknowledge him back, then turns to me because obviously it's me who he has some business with.
There's something I forgot to mention on Monday.
I nod and wait impassively, because I can't even begin to guess what he forgot. The feeling of the handle delving deeper into my skin doesn't make me feel enthusiastic about this interruption either.
It's about your medication. Since you haven't been that long on your current medication, there might be some unexpected side effects, which might require adjusting dosages or even changing to another kind of medication. So we will do a few tests regularly, but what I want is for you to keep an eye on everything in your condition that feels off, if you get what I mean. Nausea, headaches, anything, and come see me if something happens.
Alright.
So, how are you? Everything fine?
I give up and drop the can to the floor before answering him. Apparently this takes longer than my biceps can handle. I'm about to say something generic as an answer, but then I realize how often I've done that lately. Other people have asked me that too. Teachers and students here, my parents, visitors, nurses, doctors at the hospital. Everyone seems to be concerned about that. It's natural for a hospital, not so much for a school. Except this school. This is a small school, and both the student base and the faculty seem to be very tightly knit. At least, that's the feeling I'm getting. And this is not the kind of school that gets transfer students too often. The thought sends shivers up my spine, but I give a generic answer anyway.
That's great. Also, one other thing. My sources tell me that you have been at neither the school track nor even the pool, so I'd like to know if you have taken up exercising as I asked.
Of course I haven't, but this way of inquiring gives me the feeling that I should have been running my ass off on the track since the very first day. You have people spying on me?
Not as such. I just happen to know a few people. But that's not the issue here, so don't try to slip out of it.
Well, I was actually just doing some improvised weightlifting as an exercise. I pick up and lift the can up and down a few times, like some sad imitation of a bodybuilder, even though it's weighing down my arms painfully. The stupid grin disappears from his face for a second, then comes back, like it was never gone. Tezuka, would you give us a second? The nurse grabs me by the shoulder without waiting for Rin's permission, which he didn't need in the first place, and drags me aside. When I told you to exercise, I wasn't joking. I understand that you're still on your first week and all, but please don't ignore the importance of this. The reason I'm coming down this hard on you is that habits are not easy to form. The more you slip and postpone, the harder it'll be. It's the same with everything, like dieting. Can you promise me to be more serious about this from now on? I might as well say. I don't see why saying maybe is going to change anything, so I'm going to say yes. Yeah, I promise. Definitely. He studies me for a moment and then shrugs, smiling again. Okay, that's more like it. If you go to the school track tomorrow morning, you'll meet my spy, who's probably has no qualm offering consultation to you if you want to jog a bit. Consultation? See you around. He leaves with a wave of his hand and no answer, and I walk to Rin, who has been waiting, idly leaning against the hallway wall, and staring at the pale light fixtures in the ceiling. Yeah, staring at the light. Probably shouldn't be doing that, but I mean, if her eyes are so beautiful or green that they just absorb light rather than reflect it, maybe it's how she gets nourishment. Even when I approach, she doesn't move her eyes off them. Are you getting medication for your heart thingy? Were you listening? Comes out more accusatory than I intended, accidentally lashing out on her. But even so, I don't really want to start talking about it. I just met her, and I don't know her. It's not her business. The nurse seems to be happily ignorant about my confidentiality, too, talking about that kind of thing in public. But it's not Rin's fault, is it? I look up at her, suddenly feeling a bit guilty, but Rin is just staring past my shoulder quizzically, her head tilted like a bird's. I don't know why this is so hard for me. Feels like there's some inescapable lock that prevents me from being more upfront about this. Yeah, they're for my heart. Will they make you better? No, not really. They just make me less worse. Rin keeps looking at me for a while longer, and she neither says anything further nor displays any kind of emotion I could discern. I'm thankful that she doesn't. I think I'm still not quite used to all this. At the hospital, it was easy, but I still haven't sorted my feelings about having to live a normal life with this disability. We leave the main building, and Rin leads us onward towards the dorm. We stop at the small patch of greenery in front of the dorm building. The dorm is built on a slightly elevated ground with a wall of a few trees that everyone has to circle around every time they come or go. It's probably the only inconvenient design in the school. The entire wall, made of the same kind of bricks as the building themselves, have been covered with some sort of painting. Most of it is still mere sketches. Quick lines drawn with black and white against the gray plastering that covers almost the entire length of the wall, but some places look a bit more finished. There are human faces and legs and hands. I can't quite say what the painting as a whole might portray. Stacks of what seem to be paint cans are arranged in a pile on the ground beside the wall. See? The left side is hardly off the ground yet. It's because I couldn't get in the mood yesterday, so I gave up and went to meditate instead. Then it was suddenly morning. I have to work on it, but the guys from the art class are helping with the negative spaces and base surfaces whenever, which is a problem. It's easier to paint big areas if there's a lot of people with hands. The reach is better. It's faster too. She goes on a tangent of a tangent, waving a little with her arm, or whatever of it there actually is, to demonstrate, even though I got the point already. The white cotton of her sleeves flap around and it makes me think it could look sadder than it does. But it makes me feel out of place, like almost every tangible reminder of the student base's special properties has at these past few days. The girl doesn't notice any dreary feeling, of course, or the fact that she lost me a while ago already, and just keeps on blabbering. So that's why I'm trying to figure out if there is something I need to figure out, and then figure that out because it's too late and all hope is lost. Why would the hope be lost? Because paint has to be painted, and then it has to dry, and then it has to be painted over with another kind of paint. It takes time. She finally stops, apparently thinking she made some kind of statement that makes sense. I think it's best to start from the top. So, this is your project. You did this. Yes. All of it? Yes. Nice, but I stumble with my words and suddenly feeling like I walk straight into a minefield of political incorrectness. It's okay, you can say it. Probably won't get mad. I blush really hard. I don't really know what would be the right thing to say, if any. It feels like I'm way more sensitive than Rin is, though. This is really awkward. Don't you want to ask? How do you paint without hands? See? I'm an easy person to talk to, right? With my feet. I almost guessed that already, but isn't that hard to do? You're good at guessing. Anyway, I don't think it is. Or maybe I'm used to it by now. I can't get my mind around the fact that she could be an artist. But seeing how adept she was using her feet to eat, I figured painting might not be a problem either. Neither of us has anything more to add to the subject. The afternoon light works pretty well. I was afraid it would look too flat, but it's not like that after all. I think it's actually pretty interesting. I want to see what it looks like in dim light. Do you think it's flat? Well, painting tends to be flat. Not like that flat. You know, flat, like some people are. No substance, no meat, where there should be some. I know a few girls who... Okay, I get it, but I couldn't really tell. I'm not good with art. I can't name many artists or artistic terms, so I don't really have anything to say. Rin shrugs her shoulders at that, saying, suit yourself, without saying it, and looks up at the sky as if trying to look for something up there. I didn't think I'd get any actual work done, but if you give me a hand with the paints, I could do a little before it gets too dark. I wanted to get a halogen lamp, like the ones they have at the sports track, but there aren't any. Rin sure is quick to recruit my help, as was Shizune. It really makes me feel that the festival is such a big project that every pair of hands is needed. Why not? I'm not really sure if I can help. It could be any help, though. It's just missing some of the paints. You can do that, probably. Do you have motor control problems, like, you know, those people who have some? Cerebral palsy, maybe? Not that I know of. I get it. Heart thingy has nothing to do with that. She gives me a sly look for no reason. No, it doesn't. Let's do it then. So she sits on an empty wooden box and very naturally picks up a wide brush between the toes of her bare right foot. I open a few of the cans and pour some of the contents into shallowing bowls for mixing. The thick paint flows lazily from the can to the bowl like syrup. I mix them, creating funny, hypnotic-looking swirl patterns that melt quickly into each other to form a new monotone hue. Rin sets to work, every now and then asking me for a hand with something or the other. Finding different brushes is easy enough, but mixing the paint to be exactly the tone this girl is apparently seeing in her head is a frustrating ordeal. She wants precision down to the last milliliter before she is satisfied, but her instructions are obscure at best. Add half a splash of green. I crouch down to pick up the can of bright green. The other green, this green. Carefully pour some of the other green paint in the mix bowl. No, That's almost a whole splash. More white. Is green a good color to add? Is green a good color to add? No idea. You're the artist here. A hint of a smile appears in the corner of her mouth. Do you lack an opinion? No, it's just that I have no idea. It's okay, because I just got an idea. Add more white. With this exclamation, I pour a minuscule amount of white into the bowl and mix it. It looks slightly lighter? That's not good. It has to be like the color when you wake up and you know that you saw the meaning of life in your dream, but can't remember it. Maybe it's yellow? Maybe it's yellow. Despite this the impossibility of mixing a color like the change of seasons or any other nonsense that is being imposed upon me, I find myself enjoying it more than I thought I would. Seeing a painting being born on the plastered wall feels like magic. I spend the moments I have between mixing paints crouching down on the pavement and just looking at her work. It feels slightly intrusive at first, like breaking some imaginary intimacy, but Rin doesn't seem to mind the least bit. Maybe it's just in my head. Her entire presence emits a completely different air as she patiently works the details, adding layers of paint on top of other layers of paint, steadily moving her foot across the wall to add more shapes. When I manage to produce a passable mixture of paint, the rare smile on her face is oddly rewarding. Apart from the few words we've when discussing paint mixes, either of us say a word for the longest time. And even those short discussions soon evolve into a shorthand, both of us developing and using weird impromptu code words for various paints and hues, as if there was some need to conserve words and breath and sound. We stay there late into the evening until it becomes too dark to paint properly. The sound of an alarm pulls me out of the fitful slumber and into the unpleasant state of wakefulness. I linger under the blankets for a few minutes, gathering energy to rise while making excuses as to why I already haven't. Honestly, I wouldn't mind staying here for all day. Well, that's for all day. That's a little typo. Did I not notice that one before? Maybe it's a little differently written depending upon how I'm doing things. School is surprisingly exhausting after a long pause. What? Oh god, there needs to be what? After a long pause, the culture shock still has not faded, I think. Okay, that entire thing is broken. I don't I don't know. Honestly, I wouldn't mind staying here for all day. Okay. So clearly the 4 doesn't need to be here. I wouldn't mind staying here all day. School is surprisingly exhausting after a long pause. Though I don't know. It's not worded properly. School is surprisingly exhausting. Full stop. After a long pause, the culture shock still hasn't faded, I think. What? That's so weird. Like, I don't even know who butchered this sentence. I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but it bothers me. It's like whatever was lost. Like, someone was, like, in between sips of alcohol and, like, lost their train of thought. Still, despite getting an impression that skipping class is easy here, I don't think they're going to let me get away with it that easily. A nurse is bound to keep breathing down my neck with the talk of exercise as well, so eventually I do rise up, swallow the morning medications, and put my old soccer clothes. Thanks to my condition, I was exempt from taking part in gym classes at Yamaku, so I didn't get issued with a gym outfit. I'd order some to cover such a contingency, but wearing my old soccer clothes is kind of nostalgic. I can't use them I can't use them for that anymore, so maybe they can get a new life this way. A bit like me. After all, after all, if I'm going to start taking care of myself, I can't afford to slack around. I'll start from the basics. Alright, I'm starting to slur my words all over the place, and bad constructed sentences have pretty much sealed the deal for me there. So I am going to call it a day for today, and I will see you guys tomorrow. So take care and stay frosty.